All right. Well, good morning, good evening, and good afternoon to everyone that is joining us. Today is Saturday, and I am in Florida, and Scott is in Denmark, where it is five, almost, is it five?
Yeah,
5
5
o'clock,
p.m.
5 p.m. And Scott and I actually used to work for the same company. And this topic of loss is something where we share some common ground. And Scott reached out and said, "Hey, I want to share my experience in the hopes that other people can learn from it." And I was very grateful because I also feel it's important to bring other voices. I think sometimes, Scott, people are curious about how people from other countries handle loss, right? American society tends to be very insulated in the American way, even though
Mm.
there's a lot of cultures in the US. But I think this is one of those things where all of us go through loss, and it sets a common language for everyone, or a common experience. But how people deal with it is quite different. Um, so, Scott, tell us a little bit about you in general, and then if you could start sharing about your loss and the losses you might want to highlight.
Okay. First of all, I just want to say thank you for being able to share here with you. And I hope that I hope that somebody will benefit from my experiences and also from what we talk about here, because I think it's important to to share it and also to be able to work with yourself and take a look inside of yourself as well to actually go through the grief and all the things that you might encounter when you hit that barrier. Um, a little bit about myself. Yeah, we work for the same company. I work in Denmark as a storage sales specialist. Been doing it for quite some time now, and live here in Denmark with my family. We actually moved here last year in June, end of June to be very specific, and that was my second encounter. What happened right there? So and third actually, that was like very continuously what happened to me. But I think that I would actually like to start a totally different place where I didn't think I would have wanted to start. Because I have three situations that I really wanted to highlight today. Um, but I actually have a fourth one, which is back from the very beginning of my life. I think it's almost one of the first things that I really remember about loss. And it hasn't been something that I've actually talked about too much, but something that came up during some questions that I received from you. And it was actually having to give away no, my first dog.
Mm.
That was kind of, that was a loss for me,
Oof.
because I remember walking the on the road with my dog and having to give that away to somebody else was just mind
Mhm.
blowing for me at that time.
Mhm.
I didn't actually think that it would move me in any way, but it actually did when I kind of got to the point and I thought about it and I was like, yeah, that was my first memory of what loss really is,
Mhm.
you know. Um, so breaking away from having some, it doesn't have to be a person or a thing but having
Mhm.
something in your life that suddenly isn't there.
Mhm.
Um, so that, yeah, I just wanted to share that one. I
Mhm.
have never actually thought about how I cope with it.
Mhm.
So that's going to be something I'll think about
Mhm.
uh, well, post
Yeah.
this this conversation.
Mhm.
So, anyways, I want to move along to the next one, which was a little bit more harsh, in my opinion,
Mhm.
and it was when I lost my brother a few years back. And I'm not going to be too graphic about it, but just to set the scene a little bit, I went to his home. I remember a Sunday. It was Sunday the 15th of May 2022.
Mhm.
And I really I knocked on his door. I spoke with the neighbors because we had been like a little bit worried about what actually happened to him because we couldn't get into contact with him. He hadn't been posting anything on the internet. He normally posted on Facebook, and he just stopped one day.
Mhm.
So we thought that it might be better that I was actually passing by. And my father was living in Denmark at that point. He had been living with us in Spain. So I was kind of alone with my core family.
Mhm.
Um, well, anyways, I spoke with the neighbors, and they said, yeah, he left in a taxi yesterday. So I was like, well, that's strange. He wouldn't kind of do that without having a purpose, and him grabbing a cab sounds strange. And he could walk 5 miles to get to a point where he wanted to be.
Mhm.
So the following Monday, I went there again with the landlord because I couldn't get in. And
Mhm.
I went into his apartment and I went looking for him all over. He wasn't there. It's like that was so strange. But eventually, y- sometimes when you don't want to do something, you procrastinate about it.
Mhm.
And there was this one door which was his bedroom. And initially, I tried to open the door, but it was locked from the inside. So
Mm.
what these that was kind of I knew it in my
Mhm.
subconscious.
Mhm.
I knew that the door was locked from the inside because I had been there. So it
Mm.
wasn't locked with a key, but the door was locked. So that was the last door where I was going in,
Mhm.
and it was locked. So I had to call the police, and they came and they knocked on the door, and they took me away and she said he's not here. It's like, boy, where is he? And a few moments later, the policeman said, yeah, he is here. And we found him actually in the shower. He had been there for like 10 days.
Mm.
So that was really tough on my mind. I was like,
Mhm.
wow, what happened here, and how did we not see that? And
Mhm.
a million thoughts going through your mind at the same time. And that is basically where the week of hell started for me. That's what I call it for myself because that was really what happened.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, so that's kind of the beginning to that week, and it was a tough week. We just spoke just before we actually started the call here, and when I look back at that situation and try to find out how I actually how was I able to cope
Mhm.
with that entire situation alone. I
Mhm.
wasn't alone, of course. I had my core family,
Mhm.
but the rest of the family, they were in Denmark.
Mhm.
How did I really cope with that?
Mhm.
And it had puzzled me even until, well, the other day when I received the questions from you about the lost framework.
Mhm.
And I really began to think a little bit about it and say, okay, I had to communicate a lot.
Mhm.
So I had to kind of relay even the tiniest situation to the family in Denmark. I was constantly on the phone
Mhm.
24/7 for an entire week, where I tried to explain to them what is going on. I would even say having them see the entire situation through my eyes.
Mhm.
What's happening?
Mhm.
And I think that that was actually one of the best things that could happen to me, that I actually had to talk about it continuously all
Mhm,
the time.
mhm,
I didn't stop
mhm,
because there were so many things, and that helped me emotionally, to not get stuck, to not just lie down in my bed. I knew I had to do it.
mhm,
It was my responsibility. I was the one who were there,
mhm,
and I had the support of my core family, of course. Um, but yeah, that was kind of the situation that I went through. So mentally, I really got a big relief in being able to talk about everything that happened, and that was from, like, on that Monday when I went there after work. I was like, okay, so what's going on here? Yeah, I found him, got the entire apartment, everything, his things, and how does it look? How does he look? I saw him, of course, because that was how it was.
mhm,
Um, but I also kind of had to, at the same time, I had to cope with everybody else's feelings and thoughts, and everything that happened around me. That was it. Just, I don't know if you could say that it passed through me, all the time.
mhm,
So I had a flow there, and I went into. I think you actually mentioned it, just before. You the I was in a mechanical state
mhm,
because
mhm,
I knew that I had to be able to work through everything,
mhm,
and I knew that I had to be able to communicate everything to my family.
mhm,
And I also knew that I had to take care of all the things, all the paperwork, the coroner, the landlord. I mean, his apartment was not pretty after
mhm,
this happening. I He was cremated, the Saturday, so 6 days after we actually found him. It
mhm,
was just one day, one thing at a time. Found him dead. Second day, all the things just doing like that.
mhm,
Um, and that was kind of interesting. I didn't get much support from, s- say, the system as
mhm,
such.
mhm,
But again, thinking back, I really got support from my family. They did eventually. Oh no, not eventually. They did occasionally ask me, "How are you?
mhm.
How you doing? How you coping with this?" And my response at that time was like, "There's no other way.
Right. Yeah.
There is no other way."
And to help connect a few dots for the audience who wasn't with us and before we went live, what Scott and I were talking about is when you're the person responsible for, there's a lot that has to happen when a life ends. There's a lot of logistics, there's a lot of paperwork, there is a
Mm,
lot of coordinating with, you, even when someone is cremated. My family members, they go through cremation as well. We That's how we choose um, to bury our dead. And even through cremation, you have to pick a particular, at least in the US, you could go with a cardboard box or you could go with a full casket. But there's a lot of logistics that nobody talks about, nobody tells you. And you're grieving just as much as everybody else, but it's almost like you have to put your grief, at least for me, and this is what I was sharing with Scott, I had to put my grief in a little box somewhere emotional in my head and in my heart so that I could go through the logistics of the death process and going through those things. Um, and it's interesting that you say, Scott, that as you don't have, at least what I hear is you didn't have the benefit of being in denial because you had to retell the story over and over and over and over to every
Yeah.
family member. And in a way that helps you reach acceptance maybe faster because there's nowhere to hide psychologically or emotionally. But at the same time, it delays, I think, at least for me, it almost delayed my own grief process because I had to kind of put my pain a little bit aside so I could deal with all the logistics and function in that regard. In the case of my dad, he was renting an apartment and I had to pack up, and my father's entire life fit in two cardboard boxes, his entire, all his belongings. And so there's these things that you kind of have to push yourself to do, which then means that your own grieving process kind of goes a little bit on the back burner, and some of the things come up much later, like reading some of the questions that I sent you, or this conversation, right?
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
um
and that's actually funny. I'm sorry I interrupted you, but
no.
it's actually really funny about. I mean, Monday I found him. Tuesday I packed down his entire apartment, and the same Tuesday, Wednesday we spoke of. We had to pick a coffin or casket and the
Mhm.
urn.
Mhm.
Thursday it was kind of with the family. How do you know? No, not with the Thursday was like kind of sorting all his things in our
Mhm.
home.
Mhm.
Friday it was talking with the family who wanted what.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
Saturday he was cremated, and
Mhm.
then he came home, so to
Mhm.
speak.
Yeah.
We
Yeah. Yeah.
him
The
on, I don't know what
phantom.
you call.
Yeah, the fire.
Yeah,
Yeah, the-
exactly the fire. It was actually the fireplace. We
yeah.
put it there at the fireplace,
Mhm.
and then a few weeks later, I traveled to Denmark with him in the urn, that was an experience in itself because I came there in the morning with the urn in to the airport,
Right. Because you're
and
carrying it with you, right?
I was carrying it with me, of course, and I put it through the scanner, and the person behind the counter said, "I hold on for a
Mhm.
moment, stop."
Mhm. Mhm.
She needed to see what was that, and
Yeah.
I presented her with the paper.
That's certificate. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, exactly, with the death certificate.
Mhm.
And she said, "Hold on a moment. I'm
Yeah.
just going to call somebody."
Yeah.
And we have some special police in Spain called Guardia Civil, and
Uh-huh.
they came.
Mhm.
And I was like, "Do you need me to open it?" And she was like, very, very nice and very, very polite. And she, no, there's no need.
Mhm.
I
Thanks.
hope that you're having a good trip, and I'm sorry for your loss. And
Mhm.
then I passed through, and the same day, when I arrived to Denmark, he was actually buried.
Oh, wow.
That was the 6th of June. Yeah,
Mhm.
that same day. So that was a tough day for me and the entire family
Mhm.
in the church where he was buried on the graveyard. Well, he was buried in the graveyard, but the ceremony was, of course, in the church,
Right, right, right. Mhm.
and the entire family, they just like kind of some stairs, and
Mhm.
everybody sat on those stairs, and we had a picture taken with a photo of him and the urn and the entire setting that we have put there. That was really beautiful.
Mhm.
um, yeah.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
remember that.
Yeah. Yes. Um, do you have any particular rituals or traditions or moments where you honor, what was your brother's name?
um, that's a funny one. He actually picked it himself, so I'm just gonna blurt it out. He called himself on the certificate and everything, birth certificate. He called himself for Aladdin.
Aladdin.
Yeah,
Okay.
he picked that. So that was he was special in that sense.
It sounds like he had a great sense of humor.
Yeah, he did. He did. He was very he didn't care what everybody else thought about him, and he was like, "It's me having fun," you know.
Free spirit, yes.
Yeah,
Do you have any rituals that you like? I'll give you an example, right? My mom loved these flowers, so I every week change her flowers and I have it next to her urn. And we always used to joke because I didn't like flower. Not that I don't like flowers, but I don't like flowers because they die and then you have to replace them, and it's like this whole
yeah,
process, right? And she would always order the flowers, and I'm like, Ma, why do you do what, like with the flowers? You have to peel them, and then you have to cut the stems, and then you have to, it's a process. And I think it's her little joke to me because now I do it every week. I get the flowers and I peel the leaves so they don't rot in the water of the vase, and then I fill it, so but in that ritual it's become what used to annoy me once upon a time when she was alive, right? It's become
mm.
a ritual that gives me a lot of comfort and reminds me of her. So do you have any, if it's once a year or once a week, do you have anything? I know you run. I don't know if you ran with Aladdin. I don't know if you have any of those
No,
things.
we
Yeah.
we have actually approached that from a totally different perspective because we didn't quite have. Well, it's not true. We well, some of the family or part of the family had some traditions with him, but we kind of didn't that way.
Hmm.
So what we did was kind of incorporate him in our daily
Hmm.
life, so to
Uh-huh.
speak. So, for example, I have one of his pullovers
Uh-huh.
that I use regularly.
Oh, like a
My
pin,
son has,
right?
yes,
Uh-huh.
no, a pullover, like
Oh, a pullover, like a shirt.
yeah, pullover,
Okay.
yeah, like a
Uh-huh.
shirt.
Uh-huh.
And my son has some of his rings.
Oh, uh-huh.
Um, I have also some. He liked, different kinds of stones. For example, rosa quartz
Yeah,
and that kind
crystal.
of minerals, yeah,
Yeah,
crystals.
yeah.
And some of them were given out to part of the family as well. So every one of us have part
You
of him,
kiss him. Uh-huh.
yeah, a piece of him
Oh, I love that.
at their home. So that's kind of what we did because we
Beautiful.
thought, okay, yeah, let's try to figure out how to do that. And for example, my younger brother has a lighter from him,
Uh-huh.
like a Zippo.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So all those kind of tiny pieces of him are scattered around the family right now, and that's nice. It's a nice way to think that he's actually here with us all the
Mhm.
time.
That's
Um,
beautiful.
yeah, yeah.
That is beautiful.
So
All right. I know you
yeah,
have two other losses you want to highlight.
yeah. I think that the second one happened, say 9, 10 days after we came to Denmark. We moved to
Oh,
Denmark.
wow. Mm-hmm.
Camilla had my better half has had a grandmother. She
Mm-hmm.
was 92 at that point. I guess 91, 91, yeah, 91, 92, whatever. 91. Yeah, she hadn't celebrated her 92nd birthday at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And she was living on her own in Spain. We visited her every other weekend. We went out at
Mm-hmm.
lunch at a restaurant to her liking. Every time the same though,
Yeah.
but it was cozy and it was fun. It was I actually shared birthday with her,
Oh,
50 years apart exactly. So
wow.
uh, every time we spent the birthday together to just celebrate it
Mm.
and have fun. So we had a 130th birthday at a certain point, and we were going to continue for quite a while, right?
Mm.
But we actually we moved to Denmark on June 30th.
Mhm.
And that was a day where I would say that that kind of marks the beginning of our new chapter here in Denmark, but it also marks the end of not her life at that point, but
Mhm.
almost close to. But it marks like a point of where there happened so many things that day.
Mhm.
Um, we had been working through the night, like until 3 a.m. in the morning to get ready with the house we were leaving.
Mhm.
Woke up at 6 to kind of finish the painting, and
Mhm.
at 7 to pass on the keys to the next person in line for the house. And then we had to go get Grammy, you
Mhm.
know. And she had been lying on the floor the entire night because she didn't want to call us. Like, God,
Oh,
bloody hell, you know.
oh,
So yeah, so we were really sad, and we were late for the airport, like an hour late. It was like,
mhm.
are we even going to make it? And we were having the entire life
Wow.
there, and her life as well, you know. We got her up from the floor, we got her washed and dressed and all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
And then we came to the airport, and we were the last one actually arriving to the chute where you go
Yeah.
into the airplane. But
Mhm.
everybody they were just coming through, and we were the first one who actually got onto the plane. They were just waiting for us, and that was like kind of amazing. We got in there, and we flew to Denmark, and we picked up a car and came to the house where we are now.
Mhm.
And she walked around, just like strolling around in the house, and said, "This is pretty. I love it. I like it." And the day after, this was a Friday.
Because you
Sun,
brought her
sun,
with you.
yeah, we
Yeah,
brought her with us.
yeah. Uh-huh.
We actually wanted her to have her own apartment or house or whatever,
Yeah.
where we could visit her every day nearby, so it wouldn't be far or anything.
Mhm.
But eventually, she had other plans.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we moved home on a Friday, and on Saturday she was like, "I've seen everything that I need to see now." Sunday, she lied down in her bed, and she kind of stayed there for the entire week. Didn't do anything.
Mhm.
And a week after that, we had been out for the day, and Camilla, she was like, "Oh yeah, now let's grab some ice cream with us." You know, she wants some ice cream, and we brought her favorite vanilla
Mm, mhm.
and came home with it, and we had the vanilla ice cream. And for the first time in a week, she actually said, "This tastes good." She was
Aw.
like lightening up, and we thought,
Mhm.
"Okay, good."
It'll be better. Yeah.
Yeah, but when she actually reached the point where she wanted to go to bed, she said, "Now put me to bed." It's like, okay. I was
Mhm.
kind of certain at that point. I just knew instantly
Mhm.
that was going to happen.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So Saturday evening, I told Camilla to go in and just stay with her for a few minutes.
Mhm.
She came out just as quick because grandmother said, "No, bye, good night." Not bye
Mhm.
bye. She said good night, and
Mhm.
Sunday morning she was gone.
Mm.
No, she just slept in. The
Mhm.
best way to do it, in my
Yes.
opinion, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
um, so she
Have
wasn't
some vanilla
ill or
ice cream
anything.
and say
Yeah,
goodbye. Yeah.
exactly. She was like set her mindset, or like, I'm set. I know where
Mhm.
I'm going, so just
Mhm.
leave me alone.
Yes.
But that was actually I was actually going to jump through that very quickly, but uh, we kind of that morning, that Sunday morning, we called the ambulance, or 911, as you would say in the States. It's
Uh-huh.
112 here
Uh-huh.
in Europe, and they told me to do CPR, you
Aw.
know, heart
Yeah.
massage and everything. I was like, that was tough.
Mm.
That was really, really tough for me, and I kind of subsequently, or I don't know if you say that. Yeah, I think you say it like that. Um, I actually did a course on CPR because I thought I need to know. I
Mhm.
need to
Yeah.
know how to actually help somebody
Prepared.
if
Yeah.
yeah, I need to be prepared, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but that was the 7 minutes hardest minutes in my life.
Oh, wow.
You know, sitting there doing CPR on somebody I knew.
That
I
you love.
didn't. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, we kind of didn't want her to wake up because she had chosen that way,
Yeah.
and I knew by heart that she was gone. That was her wish.
Yeah. Mhm.
But I did it out of,
Mhm.
I wouldn't say need. I did it out of, if I didn't do it, I wouldn't have done my duty, so to
Yes.
speak.
Mhm.
Um, but that was hard. And then everything after that,
Mhm.
it was like, okay, I've been here, done that, easy. But
Mhm.
even then, I was surprised because we had the coroner. Actually, I called them, not the coroner, the one who handles the
The funeral home.
yeah, the funeral, exactly.
Mhm. Yeah, the funeral director, yeah.
Exactly. And here in Denmark,
Cemetery, yeah.
I was so mind blown. I didn't see him once. I didn't even meet him. We
Oh,
spoke over the phone, and the entire funeral, the entire cremation, everything was handled digitally.
oh my
And I was
gosh.
like, what happened?
Oh, wow.
She's gone. She's cremated. We picked the urn, of course, from a website, and
Mhm.
the
Oh,
casket and
wow.
everything, as we did with my brother. But
Mhm.
then I was like, what happened here?
Hmm.
No.
Wow.
So that was really strange. That was very surreal what
Mhm.
happened there. But anyways, in the end, everything came to an end, and we did kind of the same things as we did with my brother, and it was much easier to process, but
Mhm.
a lot harder for Camilla because that was
Of
not
course.
her last part of her family, but her mother, she died when she was 16.
Mhm.
So there was kind of, say, her mother
Right.
in a sense.
Mother raised
And
her in that part. Mhm.
yeah, and I know that she has a dad. He lives in Finland.
Mhm.
So I mean, they have contact on over the phone, but they don't meet as often.
Mhm.
So we had her here with us, and that was kind of the difference, right?
Mhm.
But that was very strange.
Mhm.
But we kind of coped with it the same way, talking about it, communicating about it.
Yeah.
She also had family where she also had to talk with the family all continuously to say what happened. Here are the things I could recognize everything, and at that point, I found out something that is, you know, when you share something with somebody, you cannot expect them to have the competencies to actually help you.
Mhm.
And even though you might feel overburdened yourself,
Mhm.
if they're not prepared for that,
Yeah.
that could eventually break them.
Mhm.
So I found out that it was actually really a question about, you know, you need to be strong yourself,
Yeah.
and you need to be able to figure out where everybody else are as well, because you can't just put everything that you see on everybody else's shoulders.
Mm.
You really have to. Yeah, it's like if I'm the strongest man in the world and I can carry 200 pounds, and you have somebody else who just next to you, a grown man, but not strongest man in the world, you can't expect them to carry the 200 pounds as well.
Yeah.
Not even the 100 pounds. You might give them 10 pounds or 50 pounds, whatever, but you need to be able to kind of dose that. And we kind of found out th- that that specific, well, when that happened with the grandmother.
Mhm.
So you can't just well, take all the stones off your shoulders. You need to be able to cope with that, well, a lot yourself. A lot more than you. Well, you're a lot stronger than you think as well.
Yeah.
That's also true, to be honest.
But you do have the benefit of the experience, right? Aladdin's death
Exactly.
prepared you in many ways very differently than Camilla hadn't been through it in that same way, even though she
Mm,
shared the loss and she was there to support you. But I completely understand what you mean. I tell people with each loss, it's almost like, I lost my father, then my grandmother, then my mom, then my grandfather, then my mom. And, by the third, I felt like I was a pro. And I know
yeah.
that sounds terrible, but but it's you there are a lot of similarities in the process, and when you then see another loved one going through it, it's almost like you feel like, wait a minute, I've got the experience, I'm responsible to help my loved
Mm,
one through it, right? My husband lost his mother before I ever lost any of my family members, and I was useless. I didn't know how to help him. I didn't even understand how to relate, because at that point I hadn't really gone through a deep or profound loss. I could not understand.
mm.
And but I understand when you explain, yeah, you're watching Camilla go through this, and you're like, okay, well, but I have a responsibility to help her in a different way,
I
because
could
I
support her.
yes,
I
exactly.
knew I could
Yeah.
totally relate. I knew what she was going through and everything. You
Yeah.
just said something right now which I completely forgot to mention, and that was how powerless people feel when they're not there.
Hmm.
I mean, my entire family couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
So I also had to be that was also kind of some of the responsibility that I felt that I had
Hmm.
to help them not feel powerless, to
Hmm.
empower them with as many decisions or as many things as they were able to help with, so to speak, but
Hmm.
at least not have them feel so powerless because they were 3,000 kilometers or close to 900 miles away from where I was.
Hmm.
So being powerless is also something that you can feel a lot when
Hmm.
you're not near, and that's important to be able to talk about that as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Um,
very, very important for their own healing process,
mm,
right? So,
yeah, exactly.
yeah.
So yeah,
You mentioned you had another loss you wanted to, and
yeah. That's the third one. That's not a death at all. That was it happened 2 months after we came to no a month after we came to Denmark.
Mhm,
I have an older son,
mhm,
and the meaning was, or the yeah, you could say that was that he was going to come and live with us and here in Denmark when we moved to Denmark as well. So
mhm,
then it was in the cards that he was going to move as well,
mhm,
and everything was set up and everything was like ready to go. And he was with us until 3 days before Grammy died.
uh-huh,
Then I sent him to Spain to his mother. He was going to his older sister's birthday,
mhm,
and then I expected him to come home again on August 3rd,
mhm,
but he never came. And I didn't. I saw him like 2, maybe 3 years in an entire during an entire year, due to, yeah, you could say, of course, it's a person. This is kind of a very personal situation,
mhm.
um, but we couldn't agree on where he was actually going to live.
So he's from a different,
So
he's not Camilla's, to give
yes,
people,
exactly.
okay,
So he's
you
from a
don't share
different
him,
home. Yeah,
yeah, you don't share him with Camilla. So
no,
his biological mother was not allowing him to come back.
exactly. And he
Wow.
stayed in Spain for an entire year, where I
Wow.
only saw him like, yeah, 2 or 3 times
Wow.
during that year.
Hmm.
And that was actually, it was not a loss in this in the same way as you
Right.
would say a person dies, a person leaves. This was a temporary loss, but it was still a loss that kind of ripped my heart out. And honestly, I didn't think that I would kind of feel that way, but that was tough.
Hmm.
And we, of course, we were able to speak on the phone. We could do
Hmm.
video. We could do all that kind of stuff. But that was not until recently. Actually, he came home to live with us now on
Mm. Hmm.
July 23rd
Hmm.
this year. So
Wow.
that was a year.
Mm.
And that was tough. Um,
Yeah.
but now he's here, and
Hmm.
that was difficult.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and there was a lot of coping as well,
Yes.
uh, and a lot of dialogues in here in Denmark as well, and
Hmm.
you know, so that was the third one that I just wanted to share.
And I think it's important to help people that are listening understand that loss comes in many forms, and it doesn't
Okay.
necessarily mean the finality of death, right? You can lose in many different ways, right? You had envisioned plans with your son, and you had pictured, right, a family life in a certain way.
Exactly.
All of a sudden, him being pulled out of that family circle, right, and all of that entails. And I think that's important, as well. And actually, I think the loss of a pet is very important and very meaningful.
Yeah, as
You know,
well.
I don't want you to brush it aside because, yeah, when usually children that's their first bond or attachment, and
I could ride her. She
yeah,
was she was
she
fun.
was big.
Like
Yeah.
it was a German Shepherd.
No, yes, they're beautiful. Yeah, so I think every loss teaches us something, right? And there's something to be shared and and learned from it. As we close, I know I sent you 10 questions and we've covered some and others not. But one that that jumps out for me is, as you've gone through these different losses, how has that influenced your perspective in life, or how you prioritize your time and your energy? Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh yeah, that's a really good question. I appreciate for bringing that up because that's actually an important one.
Mhm.
When you lose something
Mhm.
or somebody, it doesn't. I mean, when you don't have what you want, you can begin to see things in a different perspective.
Mhm.
So you can really begin to see things in a different perspective actually, because you figure out that you need to value what you have in front of you, not what you not have, but what you have. You need to be able to, you need to prioritize what you have. You need to value the people around you, and you also need to have a certain kind of self-love,
Mhm.
self-respect,
Yeah.
and you need to use that self-love and self-respect to focus on um, living a better life
Mhm.
for you, if not for yourself, no, if not for your family, for yourself at least. I mean, you really, if you're happy, I mean that has always been our theory. If you are happy, or if we as a couple, for example, Camilla and I are happy, then people around us will also be happy, and that goes for the kids as well. And that is where my priorities, they actually, um they're lying right now. It's figuring out, what do you enjoy doing? What do I enjoy doing? What do we do? What do we do to make us happy? All those kinds of things. And I mean, it's a lot of things that you can a lot of balls that you can throw into the air, but it's
Mhm.
really important that you on focus on making every every minute, I would even
Yeah.
say, an important minute, because it's your life, and you can only get that minute one time. You don't get it back.
Mhm.
So find a way to prioritize what makes you happy, what makes you feel good inside, and be with people who makes you happy.
Mhm.
And things are just things. I mean, they can have a value. I agree on that. But in the end, it's what's inside. It's not. It's what's inside you. It's not the things. So be sure to internalize the value that you have in things inside of yourself. Say, this is me,
Hmm.
um, and this is who I want to be. This is. I don't care what everybody else thinks about me. I really don't.
Hmm.
And it's not because I'm just, I don't know, um,
Yeah,
not a nice
arrogant or
person. Yeah, arrogant, exactly.
yeah.
It's just because I have come to the point where I need to value myself over anything else. And when I value myself, I also value others. I'm grateful. I'm grateful for this opportunity. I'm grateful for being able to wake up and kiss Camilla good morning every single day and hug
Yeah.
my kids and all those kinds of stuff. So
Mhm.
I'm really grateful about that. And that's what you need to prioritize. That's like kind of outlook on life that I've gotten after having been through a few things here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you appreciate every second and every minute
I
in a
do.
different
I do.
because you know it can end in an instant.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
don't wait. I mean, don't wait doing something. Do it right away.
yeah.
So when you think of somebody, or give them a call, tell them that you love them,
Mhm.
um, make an appointment, visit them,
Yeah,
go out, have dinner. You only get that opportunity once in a lifetime.
yeah.
So fully use your time or spend your time in a good way. Yeah,
Yes. Yeah, I think a lot of people live with the expectation that they're going to wake up in the morning, the next morning, and they make all these plans, and planning is good. I'm a big planner, but I've also learned the value of the now,
mm,
and that's been a big lesson for me. And so I thank you for
sure.
spending your now with us and giving us some of your time to remember Aladdin and remember Grammy and remember your dog, the shepherd, which I
Yeah,
don't know his name, but and to honor your son and to honor your family and your traditions and honor your loss, right? Because it I can tell you that once I went through mine, it just kind of changes you in a way that you don't really expect, which is very interesting, because we all lose people and things and jobs, and but until we go through that experience, no matter how much we read about it or how much we hear other people talk about it, until we live it ourselves, we don't it doesn't quite sink in. It doesn't You don't quite get that. But
true.
thank you
Yeah,
so much. I really appreciate you. Thank you
thank
for
you.
sharing yourself with the world. Good luck in the marathon. For those that don't know, he's going to be running an 18-mile marathon next
It's like
week.
26
Oh,
26.1 is the marathon
okay.
distance. Yeah. I did
20.
run I ran 18 19 miles the other day
Oh,
just
okay.
as
Okay.
preparation. Yeah. So
Jeez. I'm tired just thinking about it. So good luck on the 26-mile plus marathon. We'll be thinking of you. Rest and I wish you well, my friend. Thank you.
thank you very much. And I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.